The SRL on the NFL. Previews, predictions, and analysis covering every storyline in football every week. The SRL on the NFL. What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to SRL on the NFL. My name is Brendan Yerkes, and I am joined, as always, by Alex Vacciaponte. This is episode number 15 of this season, so we're moving along quickly, and another exciting week of NFL action down, another one ready to go.
You already know, I cooked last week, 11-2, feeling confident, and yeah, a lot of great games.
Yeah, this week I think is going to have a lot more better games. A really good schedule this week, one of the best, I think, all season. But I had a 2-game lead going into last week's episode. I picked a lot of upsets, hoping to maybe expand on that, and it just did not work out. I went 8-5, still was a solid week, not the worst in the world, but Alex followed up my 14-1 performance with an 11-2 performance. A lot less games last week, 3 less, but
Right.
He snatched back the lead. He's up by 1 game. 131-77 overall, so I'm sitting at 130-78. So we're moving along. And let's go right into last week's games, starting with that Thursday night game, which I thought I was going to have. I was so close. The Lions did somehow come back and beat the Packers 34-31. This game looked over in the first half. The Lions were up big. The Packers crawled back into it and then looked like they were going to win the game, but the Lions, at the end, they found a way.
And that's what I think it is at this point. The Lions, it's so weird. I mean, obviously a few years ago, we'd never think this, but at this point, with how they are, they find a way. And the Packers are a really good team. I don't want to discredit that, but the Lions are just on a completely different level right now. I mean, you're first in points and second in points given up. Like that's ridiculous in itself.
Yeah, I think if you're the Packers, you could come away with this game upset that you lost, but I think happy with how you played and how you're going to go into the final weeks of the season. They're looking like a playoff team.
Definitely.
So just got to win a few more games, lock that up. You're going to be a wild card team. But yeah, the Lions, they dug deep, and it's really been all year. You can make the argument they're the best team in the NFL. I think
so.
It's between them and the Eagles. I don't even think the Chiefs are in the conversation anymore.
Wow.
To be the best team in the NFL, just based on the way they've played. They've gotten, I mean, listen, you got to be good to be lucky and lucky to be good, but, they haven't looked so great the last couple of weeks, but that's not what we're talking about now. Jared Goff, 3 touchdowns in this game. Tim Patrick had 2 touchdowns, which is kind of random.
Legacy
so
week.
good for him. Yeah, but overall, really spread out. Josh Jacobs, 3 touchdowns, and let's move on. So Sunday, the Jets and the Dolphins. This is a really weird game. I just felt nothing watching it, honestly. It was just like whatever happens. I was hoping that my parlays would hit, actually, because I gave up on who's going to actually win. And the Jets, you look at the stats, you'd be like, oh, they had a really good game. Rodgers over 339 passing yards, and just under 70% completion percentage. Okay.
Nice. Good.
Run game, good. Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, looking good. Garrett Wilson, 7 receptions, 114 yards. Wow, good. You must think they won. They did not. And the stats are misleading as they have been all year. But it's just they are the worst coach team in the NFL, and I don't think it's very close. I think that we knew that was going to be the downfall of this team, if there was going to be a downfall of this team in the beginning of the year. And it's clearly shown. They had their chance while winning at the end of the game to just run out the clock and give Miami basically no time left. And they kick a field goal, give Miami like a minute and a half, and they came down and got their own very quickly. So, not shocking. The Dolphins, good game for Tua as well, 331 yards, 2 touchdowns. Run game wasn't really going too much, but Tyreek Hill over 100 yards for the first time since I believe week 1. So that was pretty good. And the Dolphins, they're still alive. I don't think they're going to make it, but they get this much needed win. The Jets are unable to play spoiler, and just a weird one overall.
Yeah, I think in terms of the Dolphins' chances, they're still like you say, like on the outside looking in, they're like 2 games-ish out. But I mean, hey, if you keep winning, you give yourself a chance. They've won 4 out of the last 5, so I mean that definitely helps your chances. But yeah, the Jets, it's just like the Lions. I always say they always find ways to win games, and the Jets just feel like they find ways to lose games. Yeah, they're badly coached. They just don't have an identity. And that's really the problem. Like, yeah, like some guys will put up some numbers even. Like they finally have good weeks out of these like top guys that you expect, and they just can't pull it out.
Yeah, they've lost 7 games this year by 6 points or less.
That's
So I think that's
crazy.
another one of those things that taking into next year, new coach, that a few more pieces they could get it figured out because they have a lot of talent still on the roster. And
Right.
I've seen more talk about Rodgers maybe coming back next year, more interest in that
Mhm.
over the last week after that game. His mobility was the best it's been all year. So I've seen that if you have a coach that is competent, a good coaching staff, that maybe they can make it work with him. And then with you draft somebody to sit behind him, I don't know what they're going to do. They have to, assess all avenues. But right now, they're just awful. I think they're, what are they, 3-9 now, or three
Three
and
and 10.
ten, 3-10.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's already 10. I don't even know anymore. It's just, I know it's just 3 and a lot.
Three
So,
and a lot.
which
Yeah.
is really all that matters. All right, so Kirk Cousins returned to Minnesota to take on the Vikings with Atlanta and was not very good. They lose 42-21. A lot of passing yards, but no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's not ideal. When the Vikings, they got to work again. Sam Darnold, 347 yards, 5 touchdowns. I was right all along. It just didn't happen with the Jets. Sam Darnold is the man, and he's really had a fantastic season. Jordan Addison, 3 of those touchdowns. Justin Jefferson got the ball too, so he's looking good. Vikings had a little bit of a dip, but they're back rolling right how they started out the season.
Here's the thing I want to talk about here is just the concerns I now have with Kirk Cousins because his last 4 games, he hasn't thrown a touchdown and he has 8 picks. And I don't think that's getting talked about enough. Some Atlanta fans are already saying to bench him and put in Penix, which is kind of crazy because they're still kind of in a playoff punish. They still have a shot, obviously, but you would think you'd rather roll with your veteran guy. But I mean, 0 touchdowns to 8 picks in 4 weeks. Like that's just
Not okay.
you can't do that in the NFL. It's not okay. Um, so that's just something I'm thinking about right now. I'm wondering like, would Penix really give him the best chance to win?
I don't know. He's a very flashy type player. He has the skills, but is he ready? He's definitely more of a project.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I guess because Kirk's been so bad, just put him in, see what happens. But you don't want to stunt his development because that's a long-term goal.
right.
But yeah, this is not cutting it right now. Bijan had 92 yards and a touchdown, so a pretty solid game, I guess, to get them on the board a little bit. But
Right.
yeah, Kirk has been not good. I know the injury; he's older, so maybe next year he's better, coming the second year off the injury, as we always talk about.
Right.
But I don't know if you can rely on that. That was just how bad he's been. But it's definitely crazy to see. The Saints and the Giants, 14-11. The Saints won. They blocked the field goal at the end. Alex, you were sweating that one, wanting
Yep.
that
Real
wanting that
sweat
loss.
for no reason.
Oh man. Yeah, well, that was just, we knew it would be a close game because both those teams are bad.
Right.
But
I'm just thank you Giants for losing because oh my gosh, why did you put me through that? And again, I know everyone's like, oh, but you're a fan, like you should. No, I'm looking out for the long term future of this team. I want long term success, and when you're bad in the NFL, you need to be extremely bad in the NFL. So keep losing every game, please.
and you know who's
Um,
looking out for the long term future of that team?
no,
Drew Lock.
yep.
Could have ran for
Oh,
that first, and he did not. He had all the space in the world to get 5 yards, and he went sideways. So he is contributing to the tank.
love it. Thank you for not even or barely over 50% completions. Very much appreciated. And yeah, I'm here's what I want to see at this point. I just want to see Neighbors and Tracy look good, and they have looked good. They look good today as well, or in this game as well, which is nice. But that's it. I just want to see those guys
That's
do
it.
well, develop. That'd be great. But I do not want to see them win games.
All right, the Eagles and the Panthers, 22-16. Another close game for Carolina. Bryce Young has been really good since coming back from being benched. They weren't able to pull this one out. I think the Eagles is just over too much for them to handle. But still, Carolina's holding their own, been better, and definitely a bright spot for their future.
I think, yeah, I mean, they're not pulling out the wins because they're a young team. But I think you can look at like Bryce's development and see, all right, maybe there is something here. Like the first couple years of him starting, I was like, I don't see anything. Like that's scary. You're the first overall pick, and I don't see anything out of you. That's concerning. At least we're starting to see something getting built. Like, even though, yeah, he's still the first overall pick, he should be a lot more than that. But I'm starting to see something, and that's
And he
encouraging.
might not be the guy,
He might not.
but you're seeing the potential of maybe he could be
Right.
with more talent and weapons.
Right.
But you got to let it play out. Got to give him at least a chance. And now he's shown to do something with nothing right now.
Yeah.
And maybe you have another good draft and not compete, but then you win maybe 5 games. So then
Right.
you have another year of drafting. That's how it usually goes. But he's been better. The Steelers, they win over the Cleveland Browns. They actually get the win this time. They lost to the Browns 2 weeks ago, 27-14. Not too much to talk about there. Another famous Jameis specialty. The Buccaneers and the Raiders, 28-13. The Bucs beat Las Vegas in that one. I don't think too many storylines there. The Bucs, we said it was a must-win game for them. I think you said that last week for their playoff hopes to beat a not-so-good team. They take advantage. The Jaguars beat the Titans. This was just a classic, horrible AFC South bowl game. This should be Thursday night, usually once a year.
Yep.
But it was not. Mac Jones gets the win, throwing 2 picks and no touchdowns, but to each their own. That game just really for draft pick position at this point.
Pretty much, yeah.
Seahawks and the Cardinals. The Seahawks 30-18 over Arizona. Arizona's in a little bit of a slide right now. Seattle shooting upwards. They're in the race too. I don't know if they're directly in a playoff spot, but they're alive.
First in the West. Yeah, no, they're in the playoffs right now. I mean, again, it's a very competitive NFC West. Basically, all within 1 or 2 games max. But they've won 4 in a row, and that's the thing. Especially getting into the playoffs, if you're a hot team, that's the most dangerous team heading into the playoffs. I don't care what really your record says. If you're winning 4 or 5 or 5 out of 7 or something, getting into the playoffs, that's more concerning to me than just a double-digit win team that's kind of been coasting along.
Well, perfect example. Last year, the Eagles playing the Buccaneers.
Right.
The Buccaneers battled and found their way in. They won a not-so-good NFC South division. Same situation. And then they had to play the Eagles, who were a higher seed. Actually, no, they were the lower seed at that point. They had the division lead. They blew it. They still had a really good record because they started out on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And they were much more talented, and they lost because they came in stumbling. And now you see that matters. We were talking about how the Cardinals were ascending the last few weeks, and they're kind of ahead of schedule, and now they've kind of fallen back down to earth a little bit. The Seahawks, we said they were turning into a team that didn't look so great.
Right.
They looked just average, not good at all. And then now they've turned it on. You get 2 wins over the Cardinals. You beat the Jets. You take these things, you go trend upward, and now you're giving yourself a chance. They're in the race for the division. They have it right now because it's been a down year for it, and it's theirs to lose based on having that lead. They have the advantage, and there's 4 weeks left. So, win 3 out of the 4, and you're in.
Yeah, simple.
This game was crazy. The Bills lost to the Rams. The Rams are the most bipolar team, especially from that division, as we keep talking about it. 44-42. Josh Allen had 6 touchdowns overall in this game, and they still lost, which is crazy.
Crazy.
I just hard to believe. He's their leading rusher, their leading passer. I don't. They beat the Chiefs. They have a lot of big wins, and now you lose to LA. But I don't know. Not too much to worry about. I mean, they're still having a great season.
Yeah, I mean, they're still 10-3 at the end of the day. I wouldn't be too concerned. And yeah, Josh looked crazy. I mean, if he's putting up these numbers in the playoffs, he should be coasting along. I mean, I say that, and then he'll do that against the Chiefs and lose. But I mean, still, like, it's not like they look bad. If they look bad, it would be concerning.
No. Maybe the defense for giving up a lot of points.
Right, maybe on the defense, but offensively they look great. But to be fair though to the Rams, like the Rams are a very good offensive team when healthy.
Right.
And
I was going to add, I was saying when they're healthy, we forget how good they are. Puka, 162 yards in this game, 12 receptions. He's just like a machine. He's like a second Cooper Kupp, basically. He plays the same style, just racks up the receptions, racks up the yards. Matthew Stafford, obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback. So, well, I guess not obviously, but I think so.
No, I think
based
so.
on the way his career is. I don't know if that's a consensus take that he's a Hall of Famer or not. But I think he has the ring.
It works.
Yeah. So that's a talented offense, and they still have some veterans on the defense, not as many as they've had in years past. So they're not really an elite team, but they're still an okay to pretty good team. And they've had a couple surprises this year, a couple of games you thought they would win that they lost, a couple of games that you think they lose and they win. So it all kind of evens out.
Right.
and they get this big win over Buffalo. Maybe that's the spark they need to go and shock some people and go for a race to take this division in the NFC West. But you never know. This one I was dead wrong about too. I've never seen a team look so awful in a interim head coach game right after the main head coach gets fired. The 49ers steamrolled the Bears 38-13. I really can't believe it. I think they had negative 2 yards or 2 yards in the whole first half or something like that. I don't know exactly what the stat was, but it was something like that, and it was awful. Caleb Williams ended up having 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 73% completion percentage. So really not that awful looking. I mean, the yards is bad, but everything else not looking so bad. But they just had nothing. It's kind of crazy. But again, we're talking about these NFC West teams. Maybe this is the spark for the 49ers to get going and kind of return. I saw Dre Greenlaw's coming back for the first time since tearing his Achilles in the Super Bowl. So maybe they finally figure it out with him too and go on a little run. But yeah, the Bears, I don't know what happened. 4-2 to this is kind of sad. And they're going to have to still an attractive spot for a coach, but tough way to end the year because you're not going to take any positives going into the next season.
I mean, hopefully within the next few games they can win maybe 2 or 3 or something to just for a moral victory. But yeah, I mean, I just felt like this was an obvious life or death situation for the Niners, and they were able to come through. Purdy looked amazing. Isaac Guerrero, when he's filling in now as the running back. He put up a nice game. He had 128 all-purpose yards, a couple touchdowns as well. He looked great. Kittle, who has been amazing all year, he put up 151 yards. Like that's crazy in itself too. And then of course though, Guerrero is having such an amazing game, and then he gets injured too. I think he may be able to play next week. There's a chance, but there's no guarantees. But yeah, I mean, it's just so tough with their injuries right now, and also with Debo kind of struggling. They need to get him going too. That's been tough for them.
Dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Sunday night, Chiefs, Chargers, 19-17. Chiefs get the win. The doink field goal at the end. The black magic this team is showing is insane. They doink it off and win, and it's just another game where it comes down to the last play that they've won on. But like I said earlier, you got to be lucky to be good to be lucky. They're still a very good team, but still, if I'm them, I'm not confident going into the playoffs. Now, maybe you have obviously the back-to-back championships. So you say, oh, we'll figure it out when we get there. And if you're a fan, I'm sure you're like, oh, we'll just make it. We're going to make it, obviously, based on the way it's going. They already won the division, actually, with this game. They clinched the playoff spot.
There you go.
Well, they clinched the division title. They already had clinched the playoff spot, I believe, unless it was the same thing at the same time. The AFC is weird this year. You look at the in the hunt graphic, and there's only 2 teams in the hunt. So it just shows how awful it is, which everyone thought there would be a lot more good teams than there really is.
Right.
So it's funny how that worked out. And I don't know. They haven't been able to dominate teams like they have. And they're still infiltrating Isaiah Pacheco into the fold. I think that they should do a split. I think Kareem Hunt should still be getting the ball. They had success doing that. I don't know. The defense played better this game, which is good, but the offense just hasn't been itself in the last couple games.
It really, it just feels weird. It just feels like this is like obviously Mahomes' like worst year as a pro. But again, the way I view it, you playing bad gets masked by winning so much. Like no one really thinks about it as long as you're winning. So they're still 12-1 at the end of the day, which is ridiculous. If they go out in the playoffs and they win another championship, no one's gonna say, "Oh, Mahomes was so bad or he's not terrible, but oh, Mahomes wasn't as good as he usually is." No one's gonna say that. They're gonna say, "Oh wow, they three-peated," which is insane.
Right. I feel like they've flown under the radar a little bit this year.
Right. Which is
if you know what I mean. Like it's crazy to say because obviously we know they're 12-1, but I feel like everything they did last year was all over social media, and it was like, oh, look at the Chiefs, this and that about the Chiefs. This year, I'm like, oh, they're 12-1, like, oh, they won again. Like I feel like I haven't seen as much talk about them being 12-1. I guess people just don't care because I know the typical average NFL fan just can't stand them and is just sick of seeing things about the Chiefs. But
Probably.
I feel like there's just been less talk about Kansas City in general. I think maybe just because it's like, oh, been there, done that. We'll talk about them in the playoffs.
Exactly.
So listen, they've had points in the last couple of years during the regular season where they haven't looked great for a couple weeks in a row, but they always figure it out in the playoffs, and that's maybe what it is. Maybe that's what they need. Just we'll get there, then we'll see. Then we'll have the dialogue when we get to that point. But for now, they win again. I'm sure they're okay with that, and then they will keep on rolling as we move into next week. Last game, the Bengals and the Cowboys, 27-20. Cowboys had their chance on the block punt, don't recover it. Cincinnati wins another game. We said they're going to probably end up floating around 500 based on the talent they have, albeit in a down year. But the highlight of this game for me was the Simpsons cast. I thought that was really funny. And, I like when they do fun stuff like that. You didn't see any of it?
No, I got.
You got to look on social media. Oh my God, it was hysterical.
But yeah, I mean, the Bengals at this point, like even though they're 5-8 and the Cowboys are 5-8, one is not created equal. Like the Bengals are still much better than the Cowboys at this point, and I think that was obviously shown. Burrow again, like looking great. It's always Burrow and Chase going crazy, and they usually just can't pull games out. But they were able to pull this one out. Dallas has been terrible at home, and that again showed again. It's so weird when I think they only have one home win this year. So like when you only win one game at home the entire year, you can't expect to be good.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to our picks. Before we do that, make sure to follow us on social media at SRL.media on Instagram and TikTok. You can also find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And now moving on to Week 15, Thursday night. So tonight, this game, as this should be coming out on Thursday, Rams 49ers. It's crazy. And again, if it doesn't come out before the game, we are making the pick at 5:36 Eastern time on Thursday. It's a good game. Another good Thursday game, back-to-back weeks, especially after these teams both coming off big wins, big offensive games. And I'm really in a tough spot with this one. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Alex, and see who you roll with.
Well, I'm going with San Francisco.
Me too. I'm also going with San Francisco.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I'm going with San Francisco. Again, I just think they realize their back's against the wall. They really have no choice but to win. Basically, you almost win out at this point to really have a shot at the playoffs. And I just think that they're all pretty fired up about this, and they want to make the playoffs, obviously. I mean, they obviously have even higher expectations than that, especially going into the year, but it would be extremely disappointing, to say the least, if they can't make the playoffs. And I mean, this division is still very winnable, even though it's so crazy because technically the Niners are the 11th seed right now, but they're literally like 2 games away from being the 3rd seed and being the division leader. There's not going to be a wild card team out of this division, obviously, because of the North being so insane. But they need to try to chase Seattle, and I feel like they're going to do that here against a really good Rams team, too.
Yeah, and I'm looking ahead. The Niners play the Lions in 2 weeks, so that's going to be a tough one. I'm trying to see if there's any divisional games. I mean, obviously the last week is divisional.
Yeah.
So during that last week, San Francisco plays Arizona. So I think they're done with Seattle at this point. Yeah, I'm going to go with San Francisco, too, to allude to all the things you're saying. They have to win. They are still the more talented team, albeit the Rams have the better record at 7-6 compared to 6-7 right now. But they need it. And I think that, like I said, Dre Greenlaw coming back is going to maybe give a little bit of spark there. Now they could take these good vibes, keep it rolling. And the Rams have been very bipolar, like I mentioned, all year. One game they look really good. One game they can't get anything going on offense. So I think that's going to continue here. 49ers are at home. Even if it was in LA, it would still be a 49ers home game. But they're going to have that energy. Finally, a little bit of momentum for them to take with them. Those fans can be a little juiced up about something, especially because they were home last week too. So I'm going to take the 49ers tonight to win that game and keep that rolling. All right, let's move to the Sunday slate. Kansas City at Cleveland. I know we talked about Kansas City not looking their best, but Cleveland stinks right now, so give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, there's not really much here. It's just the Chiefs are much better than Cleveland. Even though Jameis is fun, we all love Jameis, but
we love Jameis.
Their Chiefs are going to win by a lot, I think. I think this is going to, by a lot.
This is where they get the points back. I know we said this a couple times.
Look, I think
I'm not going to say it because I've said it the last few weeks and it hasn't happened, so can't run that risk again. All right, same thing here. Cincinnati going to Tennessee. I'm going to take the Bengals here. Like we said, Bengals' record isn't as good. They're also at 5-8, but yeah, it's just the Tennessee Titans lost to the Jaguars last week. Them being at home doesn't make a difference. Burrow and Chase still cooking. There's seemingly the only two people that are left on that team, because it's always about them every week. Burrow having a ridiculous amount of yards and most of them being to Chase. So we're riding with Cincinnati again. I assume you're with me on that.
Yeah, I'm going with Cincy here. There's not really much more to say. It's just, Tennessee is terrible. And the Bengals have proven, at least at this point, even though, again, they don't have too great of a record, that they're definitely much better than Tennessee.
All right, I think another easy one. Washington going to New Orleans. I'm going to ride with the Commanders. They've kind of plateaued a little bit here, but they're still very much alive in this wild card race. They have the spot and the position. They just keep winning. They're going to get in. This is a team in New Orleans, not very good. They just squeaked by a blocked field goal to beat the Giants. So I'm going to take Washington.
Yeah, I'm going to be going Washington here as well. I mean, New Orleans is just not impressive, even though, they beat the Giants. They came off a little victory last week. Barely for that matter, too, which is crazy because the Giants are terrible. But, Washington is definitely going to take this one here for sure.
Yeah, I know I said there's a lot of good games this week. I promise we're getting there. Not yet, though. Baltimore and the Giants.
Nice.
Yeah, another one. Give me Baltimore. They're on the road. All these teams that we're picking are on the road, but
that's what's scary.
All these good teams are going to these bad teams. I mean, maybe one of them is probably going to win. One of the home teams. We don't know which one, but I'm sure one of them is going to win.
Better not be the Giants.
And I said, so the Giants, I mentioned this before we started the show. Obviously, Alex knows, but there's only one team ever, and one NFC team to beat Lamar Jackson in his entire career.
New York.
And it's the New York Giants. Well, I guess now, the Eagles beat them, actually, so never mind. But
I didn't even think
up until that, that last week?
Yeah.
So now, of course, I guess it comes full circle. So I guess I'm wrong, but up until last week, so it was correct.
Yeah.
That was the only team. So and it happened at MetLife Stadium, so you never know. But I'm taking Baltimore. I mean, I think that being said, it's gonna be all Ravens today. That Giants team was better than this Giants team by a landslide.
Yeah, I'm taking Baltimore by like 50 here. I don't really see the Giants putting much of a fight here.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting. Dallas and Carolina. Carolina's at home, and they're actually favored this game. They've been playing well. They haven't got the win, and I think this is where they get rewarded. I was very in between on this, but I think that this is going to be a nice feel-good game for them. Playing a high-profile opponent at home. Like I said, they're favored probably the first time all year. So I'm going to ride with Bryce Young and the Panthers to get a nice win here.
Yeah, that's where I was going too. I'm picking the Panthers here. I just think they're, like you say, they're finally looking like they're starting to play a little bit better, but they haven't been rewarded with wins yet. And I think at this point, Dallas, who really has not shown anything, and
so they'll probably win.
Oh yeah, they'll probably win. But I think the Panthers got a good shot here, and I'm rolling with them at home.
Jets and Jacksonville. I know I said I'm not picking the Jets anymore, but I think this game is a game that they will win. They're on the road. The Jags did win last week, but only 10-6. If the Jets offense plays the way that it did against Miami, I think they will honestly win this game pretty easily. They put up 28 points last week, so if they could do that again, then they should have no problem winning this game. So I'm going to ride with the Jets on the road here. But it is close.
Yeah. I know that we kind of mutually agreed, there's not really a reason to pick the Jets anymore, but when you play the Jacksonville Jaguars, there is a reason to pick the Jets again. And yeah, that's my reasoning as well. I just think that the Jags are so terrible. And it looks like the Jets are starting to look a little bit more confident on offense. So I'll take that versus the Jags just being outright terrible the entire year. So yeah, give me the Jets.
Yeah, even with the Jets defense struggling, there's nobody on Jacksonville that's really going to do anything. They have a lot of trouble with speed and tackling, and there's just nobody that's going to be able to, make that kind of impact.
Right.
So yeah, whatever. The Jets will win a meaningless game in Jacksonville, but it'll be close. We'll see. Miami and Houston. It's in Houston. I think this is where Miami's playoff hopes are crushed. Houston needs to start figuring it out. I feel like we haven't heard much about them, but they're at home, so I'm going to roll with them.
Miami's playoff hopes are still alive. They're going to win this week. Miami, I just think that Houston really hasn't looked good as of late. And again, Miami's really starting to play well. So even though, yeah, they're on the road, I think, yeah, their playoff hopes are on the line here. I'm gonna be going with Miami.
Yeah, Miami didn't show me enough last week in that win over the Jets. I think obviously they played well to win the game, but I
Right.
think a lot of Jets' incompetence is what lost it to.
Yeah. Sure.
So I think this will be a good game. It'll be a close game for sure. I'm not,
Definitely.
saying anything outright, but um, they're just meh to me. And
Okay.
Houston, I think, is better. All right, Indianapolis and Denver. This is starting the 4 o'clock slate. This one's at 4:25. Broncos in the playoff position, going to keep it rolling. The Colts in the hunt. I think they're going to fall out here. Denver keeps it rolling.
Yeah, Denver here as well. It's just like it's hard to pick against them at home at this point. And yeah, Bo Nix has just been a very solid game manager, and there's just not really much there with the Colts. So yeah, give me Denver.
All right, this is where it gets good. Buffalo and Detroit, probably the best game of the week. Two heavyweights. Bills scored 42 points last week. Dolphins. Lions scored 31, and they one loss team versus a 3-loss team. So
Yeah.
this will be pretty good. Lions are at home. I'm taking the Lions. I'm going with them. They're just I didn't pick them last week, but that was a divisional game. They proved to me once again that they're a very elite team. And even with the Bills offense playing great last week, this defense that are playing in the Lions is so much better. They're going to be able to shut them down. The Lions offense is going to be able to go tit for tat with Buffalo. So, and that environment's just crazy. Give me Detroit, but this will be a fantastic game to watch.
Yeah, this is arguably, I would say, probably like the most excited I've been for a game all year because of how great these teams have played. But I'm gonna be going with the Lions here. I just think they're too dominant at home. They always put up points, and I think it's gonna put a lot of pressure on that Buffalo defense. Even though Buffalo has looked really good throughout the entire year, which we were shocked because we thought with their lost pieces they wouldn't be as good. But I mean, still, they're still very much a quality team in the AFC. But it's just the Lions are just on a crazy level right now, and I have to go with them.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch that one. Battle of PA though, the next
Yeah,
game it is the Steelers and the Eagles, the Steagles from whatever year that was. If you ever heard that story,
I've not.
they combined for a year. I don't remember when. I
Oh,
think it was like during the war or something.
cool.
I don't remember exactly.
Congrats.
Pretty interesting. That's off topic though. Give me the Eagles. They're at home. They're better. The Steelers though, still playing well. I mean, you know how that's been all year. But
Yeah,
I just think that the Eagles are just unstoppable right now. The Panthers slowed them down. They still dug deep and found a way when they needed to, and they're at home. They're going to want to win the bragging rights for the state of Pennsylvania. Let's keep it in Philly.
I'm going with Philly here as well. I just think that they've been more impressive as of late than the Steelers. So anyone that likes to bet, you guys can all smash the Steelers right now because me and Brendan both pick against them. That's usually how it goes. They always beat any team that we
We
pick.
picked them last week though,
Right,
and
that
they
was like the
won.
only time that I feel like that's happened though. When we
We're
both picked
starting a
them.
streak.
Right, maybe we're starting a new streak. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, Philly's just been much more impressive, especially in the run game, and I think that's going to cause difficulties even on this very tough Steeler defense. So yeah, give me the Eagles at home.
All right, this one, New England and Arizona. Good get right game for the Cardinals. They could go. I think this will be an offensive explosion for them. They can get back on track after a couple of tough losses, including both those losses to Seattle. So this will be a good one for them. I think Marvin Harrison will have a good game, hooking up with Kyler Murray. They're at home. Give me the Cards.
Yeah, I'm going to be going with the Cards here as well. I just think they're a much better team than New England, and they're home. And yeah, I think, like you say, they need a bounce back, and this is definitely the opportunity for that.
All right, Buccaneers and Chargers. Chargers just lose to the Chiefs. Bucks getting a win against the Raiders, and this should be a pretty solid game. I think an underrated one here. I'm going to actually go with the upset. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay on the road over the Chargers. I think that win that they got last week against the Raiders could build some momentum. Again, still very banged up offensively, missing their top two receivers as they have been all year, but they're going to be fighting for that playoffs. I think they see how vulnerable Atlanta is, and I think they're hungry. The Chargers also hungry, coming off of a tough loss to Kansas City, but the division obviously out of reach. Still trying to fight to keep that playoff spot. But I don't know. I just something about that Tampa Bay team and Baker Mayfield. They're not going to back down. They're going to keep going till the very end. And with seeing the potential to win that thing and kind of build a little bit of a advantage here, I'm going to root for the upset. I'm going to see Tampa Bay taking down the Chargers in LA.
Yeah, I don't see it, honestly. I'm going with the Chargers. I think I just think body of work this year. I just think that the Chargers have just looked better. They've been one of the most slept on teams in the NFL. Again, they just have a lot of solid guys that they keep putting out there, and they're getting solid results. And yeah, the Bucs just, to me, this year haven't looked the same. I mean, they're still pretty good, but they haven't looked like they did, like especially towards the end of last year. So yeah, give me the Chargers, especially at home.
Yep, very underrated throughout the year, but
Yeah,
sometimes you just got to see the upset. You're just feeling it.
I
It
get you.
happens.
Yeah,
Never when you're predicting it, but you'll feel it.
yeah,
All right, so what do we? Do we have two Monday night games this week? Am I seeing here?
maybe.
For some reason, late in the year, they've been doing
Yeah,
that a lot this year. But Sunday night first, Green Bay and Seattle. I like what I saw from Green Bay last week. I also like what we've seen from Seattle the past couple weeks. But Green Bay really showed me something against Detroit, although not getting the win. I think they do get rewarded this week with the victory on the road against Seattle. So give me the Packers and another good game for their running attack.
yeah, go Pack, go here. I'm going with the Packers. I just think, I mean, they're still a really good team. They've obviously had that tough loss last week in Detroit. They're probably upset about that. But, and I think Seattle's going to lose this one. I think it's a tough one to lose, and it's going to really open the door back up for that NFC West. But again, I just don't see the Packers losing to them. I just don't.
Yep. So Monday night now, Chicago, Minnesota. I'm going to go Minnesota. They've looked a lot better. Huge offensive game last week. We talked about how bad the Bears have been, and the Vikings are at home again as well. So let's roll with the Vikes. I'm sure you're with me there.
Yeah, I mean, they're 11-2 and they're 4-9, so yeah. And at home, yeah, give me the Vikings.
Easy.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold masterclass.
Yep.
And the last one, Atlanta and Vegas. This one's in Vegas, but Atlanta, as horrible as they've looked, this is a desperation game. Same thing as their rival, the Bucs, last week. They need to have this one to have any chance, and I think they're going to get it. I was thinking about maybe going to Las Vegas because they're at home and just some random win, but I don't know. They're going to want the loss. Atlanta's desperate for the win, so give me the Falcons to take this one on the road. Maybe figure it out. I don't know if it's going to be pretty. It's probably pretty ugly if they're able to squeeze this out and win it, but they're going to need it. So give me the Falcons.
Yeah, I'll be going with the Falcons here as well. I just think, based on body of work recently, I would actually pick the Raiders, but I think at this point, it's just who has more to play for, and obviously the Falcons have a lot more to play for. They're going to come out with that desperation, like you mentioned, and obviously the Raiders want losses, so I think that's what it's going to come down to in this matchup, and that's why I'm going to be going with the Falcons here.
All right, and that does it for this week of SRL on the NFL and our picks for NFL Week 15. We're in the Final Four, so coming down to the wire here, and just to say, I mean, it was probably a given anyways, but we're going to keep doing this show through the playoffs every week, make our picks for that. We'll probably start the playoffs out, I think, maybe with an overall bracket prediction just for fun, and then every week we can do a, game picks and analysis on those ones, so some shorter episodes. And then throughout the offseason, we'll do a couple randomly, just talk about where things are at. But still, 4 more weeks in this regular season. We're moving along. But this was episode number 15 of SRL on the NFL. Make sure to follow us on social media at srl.media on Instagram and TikTok. And check out this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube at SRL Media. Again, my name is Brendan Yerkes alongside Alex Fachaponte. Thank you so much for tuning in.